What is up? I'm back with another video. This is a review of Block 2 Powerlifting with Sika Strength. So this is going to be very similar to the Block 1 review I did, which was 10 weeks training. This is 9 weeks training up to some new PBs. So first of all, starting lifts were 230 squat, 150 bench, and a 285 deadlift with straps. Finishing lifts were 250 squat, 165 bench, however that was touch and go, so a small pause on 160, and then on deadlift I did 280 for 2 without straps. I attempted 300, which was the goal, but my grip didn't hold up. But I think I had the strength to do it. So this video is basically just going to be very similar to the first block review. I'm going to go through kind of what I did in the program, the volumes and stuff like that. So first of all, the split was on day 1, which I'd normally do Monday, was squat. Day 2 was bench and deadlift. Day 3 was squat again. Day 4 was bench. Day 5 was squat and bench. I also had a bunch of supplemental and accessory exercises. So supplemental stuff will be like shoulder press, barbell rows, belt squats, like big compound movements that directly support one of the main 3 lifts. So I had 3 squat days, as you can see up here, 3 bench days, 1 deadlift day. Supplemental exercises, I had 3 supplemental exercises for squat, 1 for bench, and 2 for deadlift. So compare that to the last block. I had 2 squat and bench days, so those both went up to 3, so added a day each for those. Deadlift is the same. However, I've got 2 deadlift supplemental exercises. They were Romanian deficit deadlifts and rows, heavy rows. Compare that to before, I only had 1 supplement there. I actually had more supplemental bench exercises last block. That was because I had incline bench as well, and military press. And on squat, before I only had belt squats as a supplement. Now I had belt squats, I had good mornings, and I had split squats. And here's some of the accessories I did on each day. This is just a selection of some of the exercises I did on each of those days. So let's have a look at squat. So this is my entire squat program here. So week 1, day 1, I had high bar squats, 5 sets of 10 at 120, and the table just goes down like that. So if you want to pause the video and look at everything I did, you can. And here are the volumes. So week 1, my total volume on squat, almost 14,000, and you can see the volume kind of increasing and then decreasing towards the end as I approach a 1 rep max. So in the old block, these were my volumes, and I thought this was pretty high volume, but compared to the current one, I'd increased at the start by, I'm doing 7,000 kilograms more volume, and this is total tonnage, by the way, so that's reps times sets times the weight. So 10 sets of 10 at 100 would be 10,000 volume. So yeah, the volume was significantly more up to week 7, and then it was actually slightly less. And if you watch block 1, you'll be familiar with this graph. So blue line is the volume, which increased at the start and then started to come down. Intensity was a very nice steady line up. This jump here is just because I did a 1 rep max there. So and this was week 10, which is a bit of a deload week, so obviously that's lower. But yeah, a nice steady incline in intensity. That's like, seemed perfect to me. Volume came down at the end to allow for the 1 rep max. Again, most of the exercises are actually high bar. So if you look at week 1, I had 2 high bar days. Week 2, I had 2 high bar days. It was mostly like that. At the end, I started to have a few more low bar days just to get more used to it, ready for the 1 rep max. But the high bar kind of helped out my quads quite a lot. So on bench press, I had some days were close grip and some days were pause bench. Close grip was just to keep the triceps engaged and build some strength there. Again, a very nice steady increase in intensity. Volume kind of went up, had a few dips, and then back down as I approached the 1 rep max. This is the increases in volume since the first block. So on the last block, I did 5,000 on the first week. This time I did 8,000 on the first week. You can see the average intensity climbs up here. And yeah, pretty standard on bench. Now let's look at deadlift. So I only had 1 main deadlift day a week. And it was all pretty low reps if you look here. So week 1, 3 reps. The most it went up to was 5 reps. And yeah, I kind of did these all without straps. 300 I failed, but that was on the plan and that was what I was supposed to do. All the others I completed just fine. if you actually look at the volume compared to the first block, the volume was quite a bit less than the first block, and that's just because in the first block I had a lot more 5 rep sets, a few 8 rep sets at the start. So yeah, this was a more intense block. As you can see, these percentages are fairly high, but not much volume. However, there were obviously some supplemental exercises which increased that volume, which I'll get to. And yeah, again, general increase in intensity. I much prefer the look of these graphs in this block compared to the block before. So in my data, I've classified what the supplemental exercises are. So I consider these things that are not the main lifts, but support them to a pretty good extent. So belt squats for squats, deficit Romanian deadlifts for deadlift, good mornings for squats, pendlay rows for deadlifts, split squat for squats, and strict press for bench. So I've added up the volume for the main lifts plus the supplemental lifts and compared that to the main lifts plus the supplemental lifts for block 1. In squats, there was significantly more volume. Over the 9 weeks, I did, almost 100,000 more volume, or let's say total tonnage, because some people like to define volume differently. Bench volume overall about the same, which is fine, and deadlift volume is again a little bit more once I include the supplemental lifts, but not by much. So yeah, most of the tonnage was weighted towards the squat, 56%, which kind of makes sense. My squat went up a lot, and then yeah, the rest was kind of split between bench and deadlift. Then if I just look at the proportion of main lifts to accessories, there was a lot of accessories again. So this is just the number of sets. So in week 1 I did 33 main sets, so squat, bench, dead, 35 accessories, so that'll be things like abs, bicep curls, tricep pull downs, stuff like that, and then supplemental I had 16 total sets. So I've kind of just split the percentages, so 42% of my sets were accessory exercises and 58 were either a main lift or supplemental in week 1, and that's kind of how it went. So this chart just shows that the percentage of sets that I did on accessories kind of increased over time, and the percentage of sets I did on main lifts or supplemental exercises decreased over time. Normally I would expect this to be the opposite. I'd expect as I get closer to a peak or a competition that more of my time is spent doing the main free lifts or things that directly supplement those lifts, and less time would be spent on accessories. Obviously doing all of the accessories is great for general like fitness and general strength, but towards a max out you want to get very specific and everything be specifically for the free lifts. At least that's what I would expect, but maybe I'm a noob and maybe it should actually be the other way. I think about this about how much time I spend on each thing. So obviously more time is spent on accessories here. As I get towards maxing out, I feel like more time spent doing something that directly supports the bench press, close grip bench, all that kind of stuff is going to be more beneficial than spending time doing like abs, doing banded tricep pull downs, stuff like that. Maybe this will change in block 3 because we're still not really at a real peak for a competition. We just maxed out here as like a test. Anyway, I went over the data a bit quicker in this video than the first one, so I'll go through what the actual program looked like in each week as well. And I'll just talk a little bit about the general block. So this is day 1 of the block. It's generally quite lightweight. However, it's easy to underestimate the difficulty of these sets. When you're doing 5 sets of 10, it does get pretty hard towards the end. Weighted chin-ups, we actually took these out because it gave me a bit of shoulder pain. As the weights got heavier over the weeks, I just had a bit of pain in the front of my shoulder that was making some of the other sessions a little bit harder. So we changed that for like inverted rows, which was a similar movement but a lot less pressure on my shoulder. There's a lot more competition bench in this block as well, and that's just to get used to pausing and pressing. That helped a lot. Generally, yeah, just a lot of accessories. Low bar back squats were also, right from the first week, lower reps and a heavier weight, so that was quite nice, to a bit more strength work there than pure volume. And then as you saw in the data, the deadlifts were always pretty low one day, low reps, low volume, but quite intense. We started at 200 in week 1 and kind of added like 10-20 kilos each week. And then yeah, each week was kind of the same, but everything got a little bit heavier and lower reps, which is, what you'd expect. The sessions were almost identical each week. Starfish side planks, these were super hard. So this is where you do a side plank, raise your leg in the air, hold it in a starfish position. Try to do that for 30 seconds at home. It's pretty tough. So yeah, by week 5, I'd say things started to get pretty heavy. This was my high bar day. Obviously I started at 120, by this time I'm at 165. This is kind of the time in the block where I feel quite fatigued and everything gets kind of hard, and I'm tired all the time. Deadlifts from now on, 240 in week 5, this is where like there's a chance of my grip failing, and you know, I have to get really hyped up for this, and every session is kind of a rep PB on deadlift from this point onwards, at least without straps. Yeah, we brought in quite a bit of hamstring work as well, so we had Romanian deadlifts, hamstring Nordics, stuff like that from week 5 onwards. That's because my deadlift normally fails at lockout, so that's just going to help that in the long run. So week 8 is if you look at my old videos, week 8 I showed each of the sessions on my YouTube. I made a video for each of these days, and these were kind of pretty hard. Everyone kind of thought this was a lot of volume, which it kind of is, but you know, I feel like there was kind of a bit more in the earlier weeks, and this is more getting ready to max out, so everything comes down a little bit in terms of sets and reps. You know, 3 sets of 3 on squat is, you know, not too bad volume wise. Week 9 was the max out week. We thought we'd get about 240 on the back squat, considering I got 230 at the end of the last block. So 250 was a really nice, you know, 10 kilograms more than predicted, which puts me in a really good place. That was kind of the goal, 250. So we already got there at the end of block 2. End of block 3, it means we can push for 260, maybe 270 if things go really well and we have a proper peak. Bench, the goal was 160, which I got with like a very small pause, and then tried 165, but I just touch and goed it. But it went, which is really good. And yeah, that was kind of it. They also did a little max out week after that, which was just to do some fun exercises that I wanted to do. So I tried a max front squat. Only ended up with 170, I think. I failed 180, which is weird because I did 170 ages ago, and I've done all this squat training. My squats moved from like 220 to 250, and my front squat's not moved at all, and that's because I haven't trained it. But it just goes to show how important specificity is. Although I've got generally stronger and my back squat's got way stronger, my front squat has not moved at all. It's exactly where it was before. So yeah, also a high bar back squat, max of 3. I wasn't feeling at full strength due to the max out week before, so I ended up with 205. Could have pushed a bit more, but did it just fine. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So pretty quick video, but I'm super busy in real life at the moment. I'm about to start week 4 of block 3. The first 3 weeks have been okay. I'm starting to get pretty tired. There's quite a lot of volume, and I've actually changed my technique on some things. So I'm trying now a wider bench press, because it seems to move a little bit faster and looks a little bit easier. Doesn't feel quite right yet, but I'm still playing with it. And I've widened my stance a little bit on deadlifts, which means the lockout is a bit easier, but it's slower off the floor. I've also moved my grip into the smooth of the bar. My grip hasn't failed yet, but that should stop my thumbs ripping. So we're going to see how that goes over a couple of weeks. If it gets too heavy and I can't grip it, I'll move back to the knurling and do all my warm-up sets with straps, and then just the max set with hook grip, and see how that goes. But yeah, there's a little overview. If you want to pause through some of the screenshots and look at what the actual program was day by day, you can do that. It was super hard, and I wouldn't recommend doing it. You will feel tired all the time, but the results speak for themselves. As always, this was tailored specifically to me and my circumstances, so it probably won't work for everyone. As I'm getting stronger and stronger, it gets harder to add that last bit, so it just takes more effort, more tiredness, more fatigue. And yeah, we're 8 weeks from competition now, so we're getting close. It will soon be over, and I just hope I can reach the goals I set for myself. So we'll see. See you next time. Thanks for watching.